The agenda. Councilor Norbury,
That the August 8th, 2023 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
seconder. Councilor Clickash, all in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes for July 4th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes. Recommendation. Councilor Norbury,
That the July 4th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
any errors or omissions? Okay. Seconder. Councilor Hoffman.
Which said it was, but it said, oh, it is, it's in this one.
Okay.
2023, 28, 19, so 9.7, it says that the council received the ATM alternative report for discussion. I believe that it went for information only.
Guess I'm looking for clarity from council. Correct?
So remember when we did the ATM and Mayor Kakauka left, and then I sat in the chair and I screwed it all up, and so that's why I feel like it went for information, not discussion.
Councilor Norbury?
Yeah, that was correct.
Okay. Okay, staff's got that? Thank you. Any other errors or omissions? Okay, all in favor? Carried. July 10th, 2023, special council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councilor Dussault.
That the July 10th, 2023 special council meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder. Councilor Hoffman. Any errors or omissions? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Any business arising? Staff?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council? Okay. Move on to delegations. Coastal GasLink, request from Heather Desarmia, Public Affairs Advisor, to share the Coastal GasLink milestones and community involvement update. Heather, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody. This okay right here?
It is.
Perfect. Not blocking your view. Okay. All right. So I'm on okay? All right. Perfect. So thank you very much for having me here this evening. I believe it's been a while since I've been here in person. I believe the last formal update was during the COVID pandemic year. So I was, of course, leveraging Microsoft Teams. And as you all know, it's looking to shift away from that new norm again, being back here in person. So really appreciate the opportunity to be here today on traditional territory of Treaty 8. As Mayor mentioned, I am here to provide an update on the Coastal GasLink pipeline project and where we're at today. I am really happy to share that you guys are going to get some tidbit information, first kick at the can, that we actually haven't shared publicly yet or formally. And this includes, I was at the Peace River Regional District a couple weeks ago, and they haven't heard this bit yet. So you guys are going to be the first ones to hear what we've got going on. So I'll focus on more broadly across the route, but then I'll take a quick snapshot into the work taking place right here within the Peace River Regional District. So over onto the next slide, please. I won't spend too much time on this one, but for those not as familiar, Coastal GasLink is being built and will be operated by TC Energy. TC Energy is a Calgary-based company, and we've got over 90,000 kilometers of natural gas pipeline network spanning Canada, US, and Mexico. We also have quite a robust, I'm going to say, energy mix portfolio that also includes our wind, solar, nuclear, and other power generation as well. So we've got a really strong mix in addition to our liquids. So Coastal GasLink is our most significant investment in British Columbia to date. Then on to the next slide, please. So this here is our infamous project route that we've been leveraging really since day one. For those of you not as familiar with the project here in the room, it is a 670 kilometer long natural gas pipeline that will bring move natural gas, I'll say, from the Ground Birch area, so in between Dawson Creek and Chetwynd, over out west to the Kitimat LNG facility, where they'll then prepare it for a global market. So sections 1 and 2, as you can see right here on the map, are located within the Peace River Regional District. And those are the areas that I'll sort of be focusing on today a little bit more. But spoiler alert, this map will come in handy for that extra bit of tidbit information that you guys will be getting, and I'll tie that in on at one of my slides a little bit later on. So next slide, please. Okay, so across the route, we've achieved over 90% completion, which is really exciting. And so that means we've got over 625 kilometers of the 671 kilometers of pipeline installed to date. If you look at the map, we do have it broken out into 8 sections. 3 of the 8 sections have all of the pipeline installed to date, and one of those sections is actually right here within the Peace River Regional District, and that's section 1. And section 2 is coming up closely behind, as we only have 4 kilometers left in that area, but I'll get to that in a second. If we look at mainline welding across the route, section 7 are more notable areas. We did wrap up mainline welding in that area, so that means what mainline welding across the project is now complete. And then, of course, we're still very much on track for our mechanical completion date of December 2023. And we couldn't have done this without over 6,000 men and women supporting the workforce over the last several years. So something we're really quite proud of. And this includes the $1.7 billion in contracting that we've seen awarded to date across the route. And we've seen $318 million of that actually awarded to local businesses here within the Peace River Regional District. So it's quite notable when you look at those numbers. Over to the next slide, please. All right, a quick snapshot into our Peace Region construction. So I will start, and bear with me, I'm going through this information quite quickly. I've got a whole lot of information I wanted to jam in a short period of time, so I'll make sure that we have time for questions as well. So one thing I wanted to highlight, we do have the 670 kilometer long pipeline route. What we also have included here in the Peace River Regional District is what we call the Wild Lake Compressor Station. So this is part of Coastal GasLink's Phase 1, and we affectionately refer to the Wild Lake Compressor Station as the beating heart of Coastal GasLink. So the LNG joint venture partner, their feeder lines are coming in from the Montney Basin and coming into the Wild Lake Compressor Station, and from here our team's going to prepare it to send it down across the pipeline route to LNG Canada, where they'll then prepare it to ship across to Asian markets. So the Wild Lake Compressor Station, we have achieved mechanical completion, and we have some early gas there as of March. So this is to help with what we call the commissioning work, and we're making sure every final valve, weld, pipe, you name it, is functioning as it should. So we're essentially putting it through its initial round of testing, I'll say. And so this has been very exciting. We have the prime contractor Aecon that's been supporting construction over the last 3 to 4 years. They are going to be wrapping up their portion of the project, and TC Energy will be assuming full prime contractor status or full operator of the facility later this summer. I'll switch over to the pipeline side of things. We don't have any gas flowing through the pipe yet. However, here in the Peace River Regional District, we've achieved 99% pipe completion installation. So I think we're just shy of 4 kilometers, and that's in the steep Merrick Mountain area. So very challenging terrain. Our friends at Sir Aris Murphy Joint Venture have been supporting construction across, like I said, the Peace River Regional District area. So we also have some backfilling and cleanup work taking place as well. And we're seeing about just under 400 workers supporting the pipeline side of things, and this is fairly standard for where we're at in construction right now. And they're leveraging our local established accommodations. So we have our Sekunka Lodge and then our Mount Merrick Lodge, which is just west of Hole in the Wall Provincial Park as well. So over to the next slide here. I won't spend too much time on this slide because I have some other information that I'd like to get to. But I do want to highlight that as a fellow resident of northern BC, holy moly, we were hit with fires like it was no one's business, and it just seemed earlier than normal. So, you know, across the route, we've rallied together and we've really supported those that have had to relocate for safety where possible. So Coastal GasLink wants to highlight that our commitment to safety does span well beyond the right-of-way. And so earlier this summer, we were able to partner with the United Way of Northern BC, and we were able to donate $70,000 to their immediate, they were titling it, the BC Urgent Response Fund, and this was to help support those displaced by the wildfires. So we were happy to join forces, and then many of our prime contractors, and in particularly out in, I believe it's Section 5, where some of the Burns Lake area where some of the fires are challenging there, we actually had the support of our prime contractor go out and help identify and put some of those fires out. So it's a team effort. We're not out there just solely building pipelines. We're out there as community members doing what we can to do our part. Next slide, please. Okay, phase 2. This is what I'm really excited for. So, Coastal GasLink, we are progressing consultation and engagement for what we're referring to as phase 2 of Coastal GasLink. So I will share right now, I'll squash all the rumors. We are not twinning the line. That is not what phase 2 means. What we are doing is we are adding compression. So the route will stay the same. We are looking to add another 6 to 7 compressor stations along the route. So we'll take that facility that we've got in Ground Birch, Wild Lake, and we're gonna cookie cutter that several other times across the route. So this will essentially double the capacity that we can move through the pipeline. Now, we do recognize the increased demand for LNG globally, and so we are increasing the supply of low-emission LNG from Canada, and this will help offset some of the coal-polluting resources that they have over in the Asian markets. So to date, though, we have no decision to move forward yet with phase 2. Of course, we're waiting for some final permitting and final investment decisions from the provincial government, hoping that will come sometime in 2024. So I mentioned we've got the 6 other compressor station units. It will mean 1 additional, I'm going to say compressor unit motor at the Wild Lake compressor station. So we'll add 40,000 more horsepower there. And we'll get 1 more compressor station actually in the Peace River Regional District. So what I wasn't able to share 2 weeks ago, but we can highlight now, is this trusty old map that we've actually been using since day 1. It's actually had highlighted the additional facilities that we've been contemplating as part of phase 2. So I'm going off script here slightly, but as you can see here, or not as you can see here, but we can go back to the mapping in what we have section 2. You'll see that there is 1 other compressor station slated for this area, and it'll be west of the highway. And we're looking at calling that one Secunca Falls Compressor Station. So we have no immediate plans for construction. We have no timelines. We have no prime contractor. There's no shovel in the ground. All of these sites for the future compressor stations, including the Secunca Falls location, was always contemplated as part of our regulatory permitting with the province. So we are just looking for those final investment decisions. So all of these locations that they will be built, for example, we'll take Secunca Falls Compressor Station. That was actually a site that the project has already had in use for either stockpile locations or other sort of construction needs. So these sites, like I've mentioned, we've already had them contemplated as part of Coastal GasLink's overall construction. So I'm most likely going way over my time now. I spent a little bit more time on the phase 2, but I'll jump over to the next slide here. And I've just got a few more bits and pieces that I'll add. So we do have our regular monthly construction updates. So I highly recommend, I believe most of you are on the receiving end of that monthly anyways, but feel free to poke around, encourage your friends and family to sign up as well. And then again, don't feel that this is the only way you can get your information. Feel free to give me a call, text, email at any time of night. I never want you to have anything tugging on your shirt or keeping you up at night about what's going on. Always here to answer the questions as best as I can. On to the next slide here. Just a quick summary highlighting our social impact or community investment program. We've got grant sponsorships, in-kind donations, scholarships as well. So our application portal is open year-round for the most part, except for December and January when the system resets. So if you've got any local organizations or community members in your network looking for funding, please send them my way. And I think, I'm looking at here, on to the next slide, that was my last one. So I realize I've rifled through that information quite quickly, but I'd now love to answer any questions that your team may have.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming in, Heather, and I'll be honest, Coastal GasLink have been very open and transparent in regards to the whole build the whole time. So I want to thank you for that. And the other thing I want to thank you for is the donation the District of Tunbridge received to update the chambers here. So you can see the new mics, the new TVs, the new cameras. It is a huge thing, especially for our residents who want to stay at home and watch us on live feed, which they are. So you mentioned about non-for-profits getting hold of your groups. I imagine ones that are watching, they'll definitely be reaching out to you. But I want to thank you guys very much for that donation from the district side. It's a huge difference up here for sure.
That makes such a difference. Really glad to hear and appreciate that. It's tough though. I mean, we can support the technology, but I did chuckle when there was, what was it, the one lone beaver that cut out the internet supply for the entire town.
Yep.
So no, doesn't matter how much infrastructure we can put into place, but we will be humbled immediately.
Yeah, leave it to a beaver for sure. Councilor Nobury.
Thank you, Mayor Kaka. Hopefully, you guys won't have any beaver problems on the pipeline. So, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you for coming in. It's been great to see the progress reports year after year, and really excited to see this project near completion. And thank you again for coming in.
Thank you.
Council, anything else? Councilor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor Kaka. Hello. I don't think we've met before. And thank you for coming for this presentation. And I have a question that may not be within your scope, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Sure. Is there a policy law in place right now that separates the markets for the international versus the domestic markets? If you're going to start pumping out another 4 billion cubic feet a day, I'm assuming since it's going down this pipeline that it's basically earmarked for international. And is that likely to put pressure on the local supplies? And is there what's the scheme right now for protecting the local markets, if there is one?
No, that's a really great question, and definitely one of those challenging ongoing conversations that we see when it comes to natural gas and what we're doing with it locally versus the impact we can really seem to have with it going internationally. So what I'd love to do, though, is follow up with you a little bit more on that. We've got a few different pipeline systems in play with TC Energy. So we're looking at Coastal GasLink right now, earmarked for international markets. We also have what we call our Nova Gas transmission system. And actually we'll be going to the Peace River Regional District and providing an update, but that's a whole other pipeline system that we have active here. Not sure if you're as familiar with that, but that helps offset or helps provide or meet some of that local need. So I'd love to follow up with you a little bit more on what some of that breakdown and difference looks like between our systems and what sort of policy we might have in play for that.
I appreciate that on your level, but you're not the only game in town. So if you're going international and others are staying local, I don't know if there's a plan nationally on that or even provincially on that. And I guess that's what I'm asking, not just for you, but as an industry. Is there a limit? It sounds like there isn't at the moment on how much you can export or how much you have to supply before you begin exporting, or however that goes. You may be able to start without that coming into play, but it's going to come into play at some point. So I'm hoping for seeing a plan on how that's going to go. And I'm not even worried really about locally being right at the entry point of the pipeline. That's fine, but Vancouver Island decided it wanted to be on gas at some point. I'm sure they'll care what happens to them, and since they work there. So that's all. As I said, I didn't expect you to have a complete answer at this point, but I just would like to see that that's being thought about.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from council? So I don't have a bunch of questions. I have one. You're on later in our correspondence about coming back to community dialogue with our residents.
Ooh, that, sorry, is that an agenda
That's
item?
the management plan engagement.
Oh,
It's
yes.
later on in our agenda. I'm just wondering, like, from our side, if there's anything we can do to assist that process.
Yes.
You could just reach out.
Sure, that sounds good. So the intention of that letter was to solicit any feedback or interest that you might have in meeting with myself and my colleague from the socioeconomics team. That would be outside of traditional council time, and whether that be your CAO or one person just representing council or the community. Because what we'd like to do is we do have, I'm going to say there's a set of parameters that we look at for mitigating the impacts in community. So that meeting would be a really great opportunity. I mean, in addition to any comments you wanted to pass my way now, but if there was anything you wanted to talk about, like impacts to local housing, healthcare, emergency protective services, those are items that we can talk about and delve into a little bit more outside of the traditional update. So your team can decide if you'd like to pursue with the meeting. It's completely optional. And then you can decide which format. If you'd like me, I can do something virtual, or I can come back and we can do it regular council meeting. I'll share right now, and sorry, I'm hogging a lot of airtime here. If we can chat outside of council meeting time, we can get a little bit more of that two-way dialogue going, and just without the time constraints. So I'll just share that, and it's for consideration only.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate the info. I read it, and I mean, it sounded like maybe you guys were coming back to an open house for our residents, and I thought that was a good idea too. So thanks for clarity on that. Again, I just want to say thank you again for your donation, because it's been huge. To me, it's changed it. Whether we all zoom in, if we have to zoom in, it is definitely different. I haven't zoomed in the new system myself, but previously the old system was very, not user friendly. But even with staff-wise, having mics back there and stuff like that. Again, the camera, I've heard it from residents, just in regards to be able to hear council and not try to, really try to hear it. They can hear us, so that's again, thank you to Coastal GasLink.
No, appreciate it. And I mean, half the battle, we're trying to get our information out, and it's an absolute collaborative effort between communities and leaning on partners such as yourselves, local government, and the pandemic landscape really challenged us in many ways. So, all right. Well, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. And I'll be back in some form when I've got some more information about phase 2 and that other compressor station for the Peace region.
Perfect. Thank
And I'll
you.
leave this right here.
Thank you. Thank you for the gift. It's 3 years been bugging, but it arrived. Thank you. It'll be in my mayor's office. It's on, yeah. We're on live feed. That'll end up in the mayor's office. So, thank you very much for that. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Take the recommendation. Councillor Dussault?
That all items on the August 8, 2023 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder. Councillor Clickash? All in favor? Carried. Are there any items that council would like to bring forward for discussion? Councillor Julik?
I was looking at the letter from the resident with the trap line, the deactivation of the Callazon Clearwater Destruction Deactivation Road. I guess it brought to mind 7.6.
Move for discussion. Seconder?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Councillor Norbury? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Go ahead, Councillor.
All right, when I was reading it, it reminded me of how we felt here in Tumbler Ridge when they deactivated the Wolverine Forest Service Road. I think that it would be appropriate for us, I understand that the date was August 4th is what it says here, if we could respond by, just trying to find the letter at the front here, that they were looking for a response by August 4th. I don't know if that means we absolutely can't, but I would like to send a letter supporting that. I do think probably, I know of somebody who uses that road. I actually know of a few people that do, and so I do believe it would be a downside, but I also don't know if that'll help. I'm in favor of us sending a letter to support. this trapper's concerns. But at the same time, I could do that privately if there wasn't appetite for it on council.
If you want to send a letter of support from the District of Tunbridge, you'd have to put a motion on the floor.
I would like to make a motion that we send a letter of support from the District of Tumbler Ridge.
Seconder. Councilor Norbury, discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councilor Norbury?
I'd like to lift 7.7.
Seconder for discussion. Councilor Noxana, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So we have a letter from the City of Prince George looking for reimbursement local governments for medical services. I think this is quite appropriate as we are finding that a lot of medical services are being downloaded upon municipalities and our firefighters. So I'd like to support the resolution listed on the second page. So I'll make a motion that we support the resolution. I prefer not to read it out, but I can if I have to.
No, that's fine. Seconder? Councillor Hoffman, discussion? Yeah, and I think you're 100% correct. It's a good thing to bring forward. I can only imagine not only our local volunteer fire department, but all the other fire departments, Councillor Norbury, so fully support it. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Is there anything else council would like to bring forward? Councillor Julik.
7.8.
For discussion, seconder? I'll second that. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Julik?
I believe that, I'm not going to try and say that. I'm going to say that I believe that what their council recommends is legitimate, and I think it's necessary. If these containers and contaminants out of our landfills, I believe that's important as well. And there's an environmental fee already being paid at the time of product purchase. So if I don't know what that looks like, but I think we need to support it because I see that particularly as we're a fairly heavy industry town. I don't know what that looks like at our transfer station, but I imagine it's an issue. So I would like to make a motion that we support. I don't know what that means. It doesn't give us like specifically what they're looking for necessarily. Oh, good that you're reading it better than me.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what it says.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't reading fast enough. That's what I would like to do. And I make a motion to do so.
Do what? What would you like to do?
To
Support
do the
letter?
carbon copy, the letter, oh, there it is, to the BC member municipalities and to the UNBC or UBCM.
Okay. Seconder? Councillor Dussault? Any discussion? Councillor Hoffman?
Wondering what we're doing right now on this. Do we have a program for this, or is it just being tossed in the regular garbage for the transfer station?
Yeah, so I know oil is being collected down at the transfer station, for sure, oil is. I'm unaware of in regards to the antifreeze staff. Mr. Woodward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director of Protective Service, could you respond to that, please?
Thanks. Trying to shut off a whole bunch of mics at the same time.
Through to the from the CAO to Mayor and Council. Good evening. So currently, as the Mayor alluded, we are recycling used oil. And as part of that process, in collaboration with BC Used Oil Association, we do collect all of the waste containers as well for recycling.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Follow-up, Councillor Hoffman?
No, I just wanted to be sure of that because I know I've thrown at least one antifreeze container in the recycling bin, and I want to be sure that's not the wrong thing to do. But no, I'm fine with joining in and making sure that these things are done, and perhaps some of the funding that is already being collected be appropriately diverted to those who are dealing with it. So yeah, I'm good with it.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, is there anything else council would like to bring forward? Councillor Noxana,
7.10.
seconder? I'll second it. All in favor? Carried. Go ahead, Councillor Noxana.
The PRD is just looking for our support with this motion they have there, and I am in agreement that we can, do you want me to read the whole thing? Okay. That we're motioning on page 48 in support of this.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Dussault, discussion. So just to update council, I believe I mentioned to some of the councillors that held back in regards to our evacuation. This is what I put on the floor as I received a phone call from the municipality of Tumble Ridge. This is the recommendation I put on. It wasn't at the right time, so one of the other directors had brought it up back after I'd left. So this was something that was important to me when I seen what was happening north of Fort St. John. Not that you realize it happens into your own municipality. So I 100% support it. I hope the province of BC municipalities support this so that we can get more aircraft available to BC Wildfire Services. Is the idea of this is they get all available contracts out for aircraft, not let people sitting on tarmacs. So is there any more discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, is there anything else council would like to bring forward? Councillor Julik.
7.12, I would like to attend these breakfast series while we're down at UBC.
Move for discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Seconder, Councillor Noberry.
I think I'd
All
get,
in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I'll get it. Maybe I'll go through extra training while we're down there. I would like to go to these breakfasts. I think that they all fit in our area, energy and mines, Ministry of Forests, and water, land, and resource. So I would like to go. I don't know if that's something we need to have here or if I can just talk to Ms. Curry and have her register me for those.
It's an expense. We'd have to put it forward here because I know I'd like to attend as well. Now, I do not know, I know previously they used to have a certain number that used to be able to go from the municipalities. Now, that might not have been at the UBCM, but the NCLGA, because they had them there as well. Mr. Woodward, would you know if there's a maximum amount of number that we're allowed to register for the UBCM for these breakfasts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I'm not aware of it. I don't believe that there is. I believe that they have lots of room for everyone, and it's a very wise decision to be able to go to one of these.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Julik, I would just put a motion on the floor. I'm not sure if anybody else from council wants to attend, but that we leave it open to all council to attend the breakfasts on the 17th, 21st, and 22nd.
Yeah, and then just let Ms. Curry know so that she can.
Yeah, just put a motion on the floor and then we'll advise.
I would like to make a motion to allow council to attend the resource breakfast series at UBCM.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Dussault, discussion. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Mr. Woodward's council can just reach out to yourself or to your EA.
Mr. Mayor, but if you could do it as soon as possible, because UBCM is filling up with a lot of activities. Right.
So I guess my question back to council would be, does everybody know if they want to attend or not attend those breakfasts tonight? Or do you need to look at your schedules? Okay, so if we can email tomorrow morning who wants to go to these breakfasts. Okay. Anything else the council would like to bring forward? Councillor Julik?
713, the District of Summerland has asked, sorry, I'd like a motion
For
to bring up
information?
713.
Or for discussion, sorry. Seconder? Councillor Norbury? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Julik?
I'm interested in this letter in regard, I feel like Summerland South, but at the same time, they're feeling the struggles as we do in the north with small municipalities and not feeling like we have a voice at the table. I'd be interested in just seeing what other possible districts are looking at or municipalities have, and maybe they have some ideas or possibly I don't know. I'm interested in doing a get-together. I'm willing to go on my own or whatever.
Yeah, so this here was sent to myself in regards to it, forwarded staff to make sure I made it into the agenda, because, I mean, obviously I could attend just if I wanted to. They're, you know, I'm not saying it's for mayors, they're looking for, if anybody, you know, was interested from communities, one person or whatever from the communities of all of BC, small communities, they're not looking for the cities. When I looked at the same thing at Summerland. It is quite different compared to the north. But doesn't mean that we can't partake. I know I've talked to some of the other mayors in the area and some are attending. So I think we just, you know, I can reply to that email. But I just wanted to put it in front of council, get council's concept of it before I just addressed that I'd be attending. If that makes sense, council? Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'd like to move 7.2 for discussion. Get a seconder. Council Norbury, all in favor? Carried. I'd like to reach out to staff to see if we have any staff time that could also meet with Coastal GasLink when it comes to this. I know I'd be willing to meet via Zoom or whatever, but do we have any staff availability to also meet with Coastal GasLink outside the realm of a council meeting? Mr. Woodward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. We'll make staff available. I would be in attendance for sure. And I'm sure there's other members of staff that would be more than interested.
Okay. So I'll put a motion forward that we contact Coastal GasLink to have a Zoom or other in-person meeting with Coastal GasLink. Seconder, Councillor Julich, discussion. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Is there anything else that council would like to, council would like to bring forward for discussion? Okay. Moving on to new business. 2023 approved capital and special project progress report. Report dated August 8th, 2023 from the Chief Finance Officer regarding 2023 approved capital and special projects progress report. Recommendation. Councilor Noxana?
The council receives the council initiatives and capital projects report for information.
Okay. Seconder? Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. 2024 budget process, report dated August 8, 2023, from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2024 budget process. Recommendation. Councillor Dussault.
That council approves the 2024 budget calendar as attached.
Okay. Seconder. Councillor Julich. Discussion. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I'm excited to see this in front of us. It seems like we're going to be getting ahead of our current budgeting process, and I just want to say that, you know, look forward to the process, and yeah, thanks for putting this forward.
Councillor Julich.
I just wanted to confirm that this was going to allow staff to send things out for proposal and/or tender, whatever the appropriate word is, because I see that we are not going to be approving the tax rate bylaw until May 6th, but I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, I guess it would be if we had pre-approved items, they would go out earlier.
Okay.
If it's not been pre-approved, I'll go back to staff, but if it's not pre-approved, it would wait to the budget approval.
Okay.
I'll go to staff. Mr. Woodward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Chief Financial Officer would like to respond to that. Would you please do that? Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, Your Worship, to Councillor. What this plan does is it allows that in February, the budget would be approved. So the financial plan for the tax rate bylaw in May is separate from the actual bylaw. itself. And if there was an emergency situation or something that needed pre-approval, that would be bringing forward. Please note also that this year, here, we are planning on bringing forward 2 years of capital items for approval. So that way we can start getting ahead of the high cycle, doing the procurements earlier and having some of that already planned for. And so it also helps look at tax implications for a longer period of time.
Cool.
Okay, follow up, you're good? Okay, any more discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. 9.3 downstairs community center concession RFP results. Report dated August 8th, 2023 from the facilities manager regarding the downstairs community center concession. Councillor Dussault.
Recuse myself because I sit on the board.
Okay.
Council for a minute. When I understand that when members of council are appointed to a facility or an activity or a group representing council, that I don't think that there's any technical conflict at all.
She's not appointed by council.
Oh, she's not?
No, this is the Lions Club that she's a part of.
Oh, I apologize.
So she sits on the board. If she was just a member, she wouldn't be in a conflict, but she sits directly on the board
Oh, right.
of the Lions.
Okay.
I think that's why she excused herself.
Thank you.
Okay, recommendation, Councillor Norbury.
I'd actually like to move for discussion.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Chalke. So I wanted to move this for discussion because I believe that there is something to be discussed about the current lease that's proposed, and in it, the Lions Club is proposing only to be open Tuesdays and Thursdays and all the extra events. And I know that there are some interested groups to see if they are able to operate on other days, such as minor hockey practices. I reached out to the Lions Club and had a chat with them, and they did seem positive and that they'd be willing to do that. So I would like to see that we defer this this lease so that staff can reach out to them and ask if they'd be willing to amend this proposal to allow for operations of expanded days. Of course, subject to volunteer availability. So I'll be able to make that motion, but I figured I would wait to let council have a.
Yeah, so my understanding, the way I read it, that's their minimal operating. Doesn't mean they can't operate outside that window. So it doesn't mean that, to me, they would have to redo their thing. That would be up to them to listen to the folks, which I believe other people have reached out to the Lions, is my understanding, and talked to them about opening up on the Tuesdays and Thursdays for practices. But I know that was one of my questions. But it's actually the minimal is what they progressed here in their lease. Doesn't mean that they can't open 7 days a week. I also believe, and this council is well aware of the concerns that they had the previous last year of their contract in regards to threats, stuff being thrown at some of their volunteers and stuff like that. And I know the district has worked very hard. Ms. Torval has, and some of the team from the community center worked really hard with the RCMP. I know, Councilor Norbury, you've attended those. I haven't spoke to the Lions about that, but I know one has reached out, and I think one of the things they want to see is if that has helped the scenario down in that concession, where they don't have to worry about some of the youth and children stealing from them, swearing at them, making threats. So I think that's why they came in. I mean, like I said, again, I did not reach out to the Lions Club, but that's why they came out with this minimum of opening in case they're seeing the same concerns, that they have a way of protecting their volunteers. That was a huge concern last year, and like again, from staff side, I know they worked very, very hard. After it was brought forward, there was lots of talk that we knew about it, but it was until it was brought forward that staff could act to it. That's my thoughts on that one. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. One concern I have from what we're discussing here is there is an exclusive use clause in the contract, meaning I don't know if they would be able to let another group operate on a given day. It would have to be through Lions Club. So either we can modify that or add these other groups to the lease in some shape, fashion, or form. That instead of its exclusive use for more than one group might be an option. But I don't think other groups would be able to go on days they would be they would be the responsible group with this exclusive use clause. So I'm actually would like to defer as well so that they can either do a joint proposal perhaps, or however they want to manage it between themselves. But if there are others interested, I think we should give them the opportunity to at least be part of the discussion.
I'm going to go to staff because I would believe if there was other proposals, we would have seen them.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Director of Corporate Services is going to respond to this.
Thank you, Council. So there was an expression of interest put forward, released, and for interested groups, organizations to submit proposals for the operation of the concession downstairs in the community center. There was one proposal that was received, and it was from the Lions Club. Now, I don't know, I would have to, if council is going to give the direction tonight to speak with the Lions to open up this proposal to allow other groups to use, then I would have to seek legal on this because this is the legal action that we have taken.
Thank you for that. Councillor Julik and then Councillor Norbury.
I think that this agreement actually allows for that, as I look at exclusive use number 5 in the contract, that they can get written authorization from the district. So if there was another, like if the Lions were to make that agreement with somebody else, then they could come forward, if I understand the exclusive use clause, that they could still come forward, and that wouldn't hold up the process tonight.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Chalke. I just wanted to say that I appreciate your comments about the at minimum. I think it's a good distinction there, and like as it stands, now I'm not in favor of deferring because, you know, in my conversations, they would be willing to work with the requests or to allow for expanded hours, and minimum is just that minimum. So I'm not in favor of deferring. And you know, to Councillor Hoffman's comments about allowing other groups, it might be tough to allow other organizations in there to work out a agreement because, you know, like you get too many cooks in the kitchen, maybe they're moving things around, people using this and that, like, you know, unless we had a surefire competition and we can work something out, we have something in front of us now that has worked and will continue to work, and yeah, so I'm in favor of lease.
Okay, and I just want to go back to Mr. Woodward. I want to make sure I've read that right, that it is their minimum in the contract. That's how I read it, and I just want clarity from staff.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Mr. Mayor. That is the minimum. And I know that the Lions are very flexible as well, and they facilitate different groups, but there's always a Lion there. So that counterbalances the information to make sure that it is the Lions lease, and they will look after that. And they do a wonderful job, and they've been doing it for quite a while. So I don't recommend deferment. I respect Councillor Hoffman's recommendation, but I don't recommend deferment at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you. I'll move that council directs administration to enter into a lease agreement with the Lions Club of Tumbler Ridge as per the request for proposal closing July 21st, 2023 for the operations of the downstairs community center concession, and that council approves the downstairs community center concession lease as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Julik. Discussion. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Yeah, do you mind getting her? It's okay, Councillor Julik. Okay, moving on to 9.4, lease renewal, Tumbler Ridge Community Garden and Composting Society. Report date July 31st, 2023, from the Director of Corporate Services, seeking the renewal of the lease agreement with the Tumbler Ridge Community Garden Composting Society. Recommendation, Councillor Julik.
That the District of Tumbler Ridge enters into a lease agreement with the TR Community Garden and Composting Society for district property legal description Lot 107, Plan PGP 29399, District Lot 3164, for the operation of a community garden for a term of 5 years beginning May 7th, 2023, and ending May 6th, 2028, for $1 per year.
Seconder. I'll second that. Discussion. So I guess my question would be back to staff, and my thoughts are that You know, we have to keep renewing it. It's for $1 and the amount of time we spend doing that. Is there another way of doing a lease with the community gardens and compost society that's longer term? Myself, I understand I'm only here for 3 more years or whatever, 2.5. No, 3.5. That I can't hold the next council accountable, but to me, I can't see the community gardens and compost society going anywhere else. I mean, they've invested a ton of money up there. They plan on investing more money up there. Is there a way to lengthen that term? A different way of doing that term?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not aware of council allowing anything beyond the 5 years. There is a whole pile of technical things that come with that, and addendums and other things like that, but mostly the primary factor is 5 years. So we're stuck with that.
Okay, thank you for that. Any more discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. 9.5, TR 29 Communications Policy for Adoption. Report dated August 8, 2023, from the Deputy at Corporate Office seeking the adoption of the TR-29 Communication Policy. Recommendation, please. Councilor Norbury.
The council adopts the TR 29 communications policy as presented.
Seconder, Councilor Noxana. Discussion. Councilor Jhalke.
Number one, the purpose of the policy, I just felt that the wording could be a little bit more open because it wishes to be open with the media, yet the whole policy is more than just the media. So I'm wondering if that could read more around stakeholders or something like that. Because the policy, there's lots of different pieces other than the media. So that's the first line of the purpose of the policy. And then in G, it talks about, for media misrepresentation, it talks about counselor that has the communications portfolio. We don't have a counselor with a communication portfolio. And that's it for me.
Thank you. I guess back to staff about word changing. I guess if council wants to change it, we'd have to put a motion forward. But I believe, was this not brought forward at the PMP? This would have been the opportunity. I understand maybe we didn't get a chance, but that's the opportunity to make those changes. Doesn't mean we can't do them here. I guess it's up to council. But I believe your second request or your second comment, we talked about removing that part at the PMP in regards to the counselor portfolio because we don't have that. I thought we talked about that. And I could be wrong, Councillor Jhalke. I guess what's council's thoughts in the wording under the purpose of the policy? I understand where Councillor Jhalke is coming from, but honestly, I don't have an issue with it, the way it's worded, just because of the way, I mean, it's an open and clear, transparent policy. I know it does say that it's media, but a lot of the tools here are media. QR codes are media, identification cards, media, citizen surveys, media. You know, it's different when it's, you know, still done through the media, is how I read it, and maybe I'm reading into it, but that's my thought. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Is it perfect? Maybe not, but I just don't think this is necessary to send it as a rewrite. The vast majority of this is direct to media. Media relations, multiple points, radio, inquiries, news releases. I'm not worried about that side of it, and honestly, I'm okay with even leaving the portfolio in. If it's essentially a mayor portfolio as it stands right now to my mind. If you're the point, it's yours. Official or not. But no, there's nothing that stood out for you in this for me that I have any issue with going forward with, and that's obviously personally. Thanks.
Councillor Jhalke.
I think for me, because it's titled communication policy, I feel like it's more than just the media. Like, I get that it's, if it's going to include social media, okay, social media, but I think that the policy itself is a communications policy with the stakeholders in our community, whether that's through media, whether that's through So they talk about news releases in here, political issues, identification cards, citizen survey, like a citizen is not the media. So I guess for me, as we don't have the opportunity to go through our policies on a regular basis, this is 16 years, this one. I think it's important that we get it, I like to see it comprehensive. Maybe that's just a idiosyncrasy of mine, but I would like it to say wishes to be open with the citizens of, or, because we're not looking to be open with the media. I could care less about the media, honestly. Because it's important for me that we're open with our citizens and the stakeholders within our community. So that's my 2 cents on that. And then the other part about the editorial discrepancy, it says with the mayor and the councillor responsible for the communication portfolio. If we don't have a councillor with a communication portfolio, I think this is just one of those things that we've got to get right, because we don't go back to them 16 years. So let's get it right this time. And if that means we go back for a couple of rewrites, I don't think that, maybe we make that motion. I don't know that that has to come back to us then. We just say we approve it based on these changes.
Yeah, thank you for that. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I think it's appropriate to remove the councillor portfolio, as that is something that we don't have anymore. So I'll motion to remove the councillor portfolio portion of policy.
Okay, seconder. Councilor Dussault, discussion on that motion on the floor. Councilor Hoffman?
There's nothing that, if it's gone, it takes it out as an option for the next round of council. And that's why I really don't want to remove it, is different councils are going to be run in different ways. And if we're doing a policy, and as you said, if it's going to be there for 16 years, I would rather not take away that option from the next group. So I'll stop there. That's for this motion. So
Yeah, so it ends up being our policy. They can add it. They can add it back in. I've been on council for 9 years, and we never had. I'm not sure the last time the district of Tunbridge had a council responsible for communication portfolio. I attended lots of meetings previous to joining council. Never ever heard of that one. Okay. That's the only reason I believe I talked about that at the PMP was seemed weird to me. If I'm not here, then the acting mayor would be the spokesperson for the community of Tunbridge. So that's the only reason I say that, but it's my thought. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. To Councillor Hoffman, I believe this goes back to, like, we don't have a portfolio. And the reason why is, like, the portfolio system is outdated. We don't have that system anymore. So if they want to if future councils would like to bring back the portfolio system, they can add it in at that point. But I don't think this is the time to talk about the fallacies of the portfolio system, but we don't have it. We don't have it, and there's a good reason, so. Thank you.
Thanks. Any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried to remove. Okay, Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. And back to Councillor Julich's comments about the wording of the policy. I think what Councillor Julich might be looking for goes beyond this policy. In my reading, this policy does talk to how we handle the media, and the media doesn't just include our stakeholders, because it could be global media, global TV reaching out, and this would cover that. I think if we're looking at how we would interact with our stakeholders in our community, I think that's something different. So, I mean, I can appreciate Councillor Julich's comments, but in this regard, I think it's appropriately used. I mean, maybe we can change the communications policy name, but I think for this specific purpose, I think it's good.
Thank you. Councillor Julich.
I'll just point out that D is specific to media relations, so that's already included within the policy. For me, and I would agree with you, Councillor Norbury, if we're not going to change that purpose of the policy, like that opening line, then I would say we rename the policy, because it's not a communications policy as a whole if the first line says to be open with the media. To me, that's a media communications policy. And the second, A is a citizen survey, which is not the media. So we're including things that are not the media within the actual policy. So the purpose of the policy to me is not reading clear or appropriately because of the things that follow.
Thank you, Councillor Julich. Okay. Any more discussion in regards to this? Counselor Jilek.
I would like to make a motion that the wording on number 1, purpose of the policy, to be changed to the district wishes to be open with the citizens and community stakeholders.
Okay, seconder. Counselor Dussault. Discussion. Okay, call the question. Oh, sorry, Counselor Hoffman. Counselor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't feel that I can support this motion. I think that's just far too broad for what this communication policy seems to be about. I don't know if there is policy regarding what, say, a resident coming into City Hall would want for information, and I'd be open to seeing that, but I think this, with the A, B, and C being very specific and not directly for, okay, arguments on B directly for the residents, I don't think I want to broaden the purpose of this policy to that extreme. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Hoffman. Sorry, I almost missed you there. Any more discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. Okay. Did we end up with 3 motions on the floor at one time here?
No.
What was it just moved for discussion?
No, we've made the motion to approve it, but we made motions to amend.
All right, amend then. I didn't hear any amended motions. Sorry?
We didn't amend it.
We've removed, so we amended it, so.
Yes,
we Okay.
removed, but it wasn't.
Okay, I think we might have done that wrong a bit. Okay. Okay, the amended one. Okay. And that's already on the floor. That, okay.
But we should have moved to remove. I moved to change, and so we have to.
Should have done but to amend. Councilor Nober?
I think America, all we did was we just used the wrong term. We should have just said, I amend the motion, amend the policy, but, you know, we do still have the original recommendation was to adopt the communications policy, and we can go to corporate, but I believe we just do it as make the motion as amended.
So you want to make the motion?
I will. As amended.
Okay, second on the amended TR 29 communication policy. Councilor Dussault. Discussion on the amended TR communication policy. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, going to take a 5-minute recess. Moving on, we're going to go to 9.6, schedule of meetings. Councillor Julik.
I would like to see us move the September 18th meeting to September 25th. As we will be at UBCM.
Okay, just need to put the motion on the floor.
I make a motion that we move September 18th regular council meeting to September 25th.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Dussault. Okay, I'm going to go to staff because the only concern I have is staff also attend the UBCM, and they're the ones that actually put our agenda together. So my thoughts here is we're probably going to have to cancel the September 18th meeting because they won't have time to get agenda built and their meetings with the senior staff to have preparedness. So I'm just going to go to staff first. Mr. Woodward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yeah, I would recommend that we do not have a meeting on the 18th, of course, or the 25th, because we're all at UBCM. By the time we get back, it's going to be somewhat difficult to have a meeting on that day.
I can amend that.
Okay. Any more discussion? We need to amend it. Okay, so my thing is I won't support the motion just in regards to that. And Councillor, I didn't want to cut you off when you were making the motion, and I didn't want to talk about it until it was second. But yeah, so I won't support it just for that reason. It takes staff to build our agendas, so it'll be up to council.
We're planning, we have an interim arrangement that we're planning for a strategy meeting for council and then for senior staff on the 14th and the 15th of September, which is the prelude or the preamble for the budget meeting as well. And if it's possible for all of council or the majority of council to be there, they would be the majority of the day of 14th and the 15th. So we would normally have maybe the 14th as the day for the council, and then a half a day for our senior staff, and then a joint meeting, and with a professional facilitator.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's get rid of this motion, and then we'll discuss that as well. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of a meeting on the 25th? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. So my concern, and I know we're talking about the 14th and 15th in regards to that, I actually have the same concern as we're going to be heading to the UBCM 3 days later. I think if we're going to do this strategic planning, in my thoughts, I did ask if there was a weekend available. I did email the CAO. It's summer in November. I actually think we need to push this. That's my thoughts. It's up to council. But to me, meeting on the Thursday, Friday, and then majority of us will be leaving on the 17th, I would think, for the UBCM. Again, puts a pretty tight timeline for myself for sure. So, not sure what council thinks in regards to that. I understand. I think, Mr. Woodward's, it was November or something we'd be looking at if it was a weekend?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the facilitators that we talked to, they're all booked almost solid. Should have probably done this in June or whatever, but they're all booked, and so they're not available until November.
Okay.
But there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it in November. It'll just take a lot more work at our budget meetings, like a strategy type meeting. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Noberry?
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. Just want to make sure that my voice is properly on the mic. I would personally prefer to see a weekend, even if it moves into November. It is, a challenge to take a full week off of work and then another full day and a half the week before. So, I prefer if we look somewhere a little later in the year.
Okay. What's the rest of council think? That's two of us, so. Councillor Julik?
For me, my initial response is I like the 14th and 15th, just because from what I'm understanding, this is tying to our budget conversations. And so I think that it's important that we get those done earlier rather than later. I also understand Councillor Norbury and the concerns that he has. So I'm good for it to do the 14th and 15th, but I also understand the constraints. So I'm good for either. And in fact, weekends sometimes are harder for me, so whichever.
Okay. Councillor Dussault?
I also am good for either, but if we would like to push it to November, I'm fine with that as well. So November works.
Council's all good with that. Maybe we can reach out, maybe whether it's November, or we can ask for October. If that would work, if maybe staff could do that instead of trying for the 14th and 15th of September.
Our Chief Financial Officer would like to speak to that. Go ahead.
Through your worship. I'm looking at the calendar for the budget calendar, and it shows that council will be reviewing the capital list on December 5th. So if it is done in November, there is some time. It just means staff will not be able to take that time to try these things nicely for the strategic plan. So that's what I want to advise. Yes, it can go ahead, still be done, but it will not be ranked, or the capital items will not be categorized.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so it sounds like that can maybe reach back out and see if we can push it later, even into October, if it has to be November. But yeah, I just think it's a little tight for September. Okay, is there anything else in regards to schedule of meetings? Councillor Chalke.
Do we need to make a motion to cancel the September 18th meeting? I make a motion to cancel the September 18th regular council meeting.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, anything else in regards to scheduling meetings? Okay. Any notice of motions? Okay. 10.1, land acknowledgement at council meeting at the May 23rd, 2023, regular meeting of council. Councillor Jurek brought forward the following notice of motion. Councillor Jurek. Flip it over.
I would like to make a motion that council starts using a land acknowledgement at the beginning of all council meetings.
That's the only part you want?
Like, it can be the whole thing. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it in my package here, and all of a sudden it's not there, even though it was before.
This is the one that's in the agenda.
Yeah. All right. I'd like to make a motion that council starts using a land acknowledgement at the beginning of all council meetings, particularly to align with the most current official community plan.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Norbury. Discussion? I'm just going to make a comment before I go to Councillor Noxana. I know we've sent this back to staff to actually do a proper one, and my thought, the official community plan could also be wrong or offend. I know the PRD, we're going through the same process right now, reaching out to all the First Nation partners in Treaty 8 to make sure that we have the land acknowledgement correct on the way they want to see the land acknowledgement done. And my concern is I don't know if we reached out when we did the official community plan. And that would be my concern of using that. It's not that I don't want to have land acknowledgement. I just want to make sure it's right and it's what they would like and the wording they would like to use. I just want to make sure we get it done right. I think it's important that we have their input to make sure it's correct and what they want to see in it, just so that we're not missing other parties that maybe we haven't thought of. That'd be my comment. Councillor Noxana.
I think we can all recognize the importance of recognizing the land that we are on, but I would be hesitant to start doing a land acknowledgement without us as a council doing the work and learning why it's important. I don't want to be sitting here paying lip service and not having the true meaning behind it first. So I, instead of this, would like to push that our cultural safety hopefully be scheduled soon for us, and that as part of that, we do the work to find out why we do a land acknowledgement.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Noxana, for those words. I never thought of it that way. So thanks for that comment, because I think you're correct when it comes to, I know yourself and myself and Councillor So attended Soto's Pemmican Days. Yourself and I went to West Mo Days. And I've done some training through the PRD, so I understand it from my side, but, I just realistically thought all of council would understand why we have land acknowledgement, or staff understand why we have it on our emails. For you to say that, I appreciate that. Because you just assume that we all know why and don't partake in, and do we know why? Do we feel why we're doing this? To hear council come up with that, I appreciate those words. Councillor Julik and then Councillor Hoffman.
I understand where Councillor Noxana is coming from. I also know that it is not the responsibility of the First Nations or Indigenous peoples to do the work. It's our job to do the work. And our job, to me, has been long delayed in these council chambers in acknowledging First Nations or Indigenous people. This isn't new. It's not even a little bit new. I know that I have the knowledge, and I feel within me, I know why those things are important. Do I feel like we could reach out to First Nations and say, this is how we're doing it? But again, I think that's putting the onus back on them. Like, I think it's important that we do the work, and that carries with what Councillor Noxana has said. At the same time, I'm okay with acknowledging that we meet on Treaty 8 territory. It can be something simple. It can be something more. We've had an Indigenous group within the Global Geopark come up with a grading that was approved by them. I think that there's been work done in our community already. That we put it off even longer. We talked about this back in October, November when we were elected. So I'm not in agreement in putting it off. I think that we can still do the acknowledgement because I believe some of us do know why the importance is there. And I think it's more important for us to move forward than holding it off again, because we've been saying since November we're going to do the cultural thing, and here we sit.
Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. As I said before, until there's consultation for me, it's lip service. I understand where Councillor Julik's coming from, that we haven't done anything yet, and I don't just want to put something on a piece of paper, say it, and say that our town is progressive because we did this. And for me, until we have a level of consultation, I'm just out. So that's where I stand, and I can appreciate where Councillor Julik is coming from. That for her personally, it's very different. But to me, it's not putting the work back on them, because if whatever we come up with, we can have all the best intentions in the world, and it could still be perceived in a way that is less than appropriate. And that's what I need before I can say yes to this. Thank you.
Thanks. So I make a couple comments. So I'm not asking the First Nations to do the work for the District of Tunbridge or myself. What I'm suggesting that we make sure we reach out to them to get the understanding and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, I know the PRD has started the process. The DTR's started the process. I know Chief Wilson himself, Councillor Noxana was there. The appreciation that we received when we went to West Modays just shows that the dialogue of us actually properly reaching out to those First Nation partners, what it does in return and how they respect us when we come on to their nation. To be greeted the way the two of us were greeted, outstanding. I'll be honest, when our evacuation happened, Chief Wilson was the first nation to reach out for assistance. Whatever we needed, West Mo was behind us and willing to assist. So it's not about them doing the work for us, it's making sure that we actually reach out to all the nations, including the Treaty 8 as a whole, but whether it's McLeod Lake, Kelly Lake, all of them, to make sure we are not missing a party within our land acknowledgement. I'm not asking them to write it for me. I just want staff to make sure we're reaching out and doing the proper dialogue. We talked about this in November. We could talk all we want in November and December until the budget's approved in May. It is hard for staff then to go out and try to find somebody. So we can, I know it's somewhere in here that it's ongoing, I believe. I believe they've reached out, they're just waiting for dates. So I understand we all as council, when we put something forward through, or we put something in the budget, or whatever we do, we want it now. It does not happen that way. I got to be honest, I've been on council again for 9 years. It does take time, and I understand the frustration to that. If you want it to happen now, put more money in your budget to have stuff immediate. I believe that would happen. But it costs more taxpayer dollars, and I think this is the right way to do it. We put in the budget gets approved, staff start doing the work on behalf of council of what we're looking for. And I believe further in the agenda, we see that it's ongoing and reached out and waiting for, I believe, a schedule of times that work for both parties. So, Councillor Julik and then Councillor Norbury.
So just to the points made, and then it'll be at council's will, obviously. We could have all the cultural training we want, and that still doesn't mean we're going to get it right. Because we could still miss a band, we could still miss a community, we could still miss, and none of that's intentional. I don't think, and what I meant by us doing the work, it's about us doing, like, it still feels to me like, so we say, well, we've put this together, but we want to get your approval on that. And for me, that isn't, like, it's like, I want to mow your lawn, but, you know, is it okay if you let me mow your lawn? Like, I mean, it's that kind of thing for me. It's about us doing it because it's the right thing to do. And again, so far as reaching out or making a mistake, we could do that with all the training in the world. And my comment in regards to that was not ever a push at staff. I know staff works very hard on doing these things. My point being is that it takes a long time for that stuff to happen. So if we continue to have difficulties because staff maybe can't get somebody to come in and talk to us, then there we are again, we're waiting again. And there's nothing here that's been said to me that makes me think that the training is going to make a difference on the acknowledgement of that we are on Treaty 8 territory. Does that mean we have to list every band? Possibly. And again, I would say the Geopark has already done the work with the surrounding bands.
Thank you, Councillor Jilek. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Chalke. So, to be honest, I thought this was fine to begin with, but after hearing yourself and Councillor Oksana and others who have spoken, Councillor Hoffman, I guess I'll name you because you're the only one person. But I do think it is important for us to have a proper consultation because, you know, advocacy is important, but at the same time, I think we do need to just go through the proper process of consulting with the nations in the area because we are at the level where if we do make a mistake, it is a big deal. And I would hate for us to upset any of our Indigenous partners in the region without just taking a little bit of time, slowing this down, make sure we get it right, because we're going to be saying it every single meeting. It does need to be heartfelt and truthful. And it's one of those things I don't think we need to rush. So, I mean, I think it's reasonable if we make, I don't want to make an amendment on your motion, Councillor Jilek, but I would think that this is possible as if we give it with a caveat after consultation with our local Indigenous bands in the region. Like that would be my suggestion, because then we can still have this ongoing, but we still have this caveat first of let's have the conversations first.
Thanks, Councillor Jilek, or Councillor Norbury. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, I'm going to read out the recommendation that council starts using a land acknowledgement at the beginning of all council meetings, particularly to align with the most current official community plan. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. 10.2, Tumbler Ridge Housing Needs Committee at May 23rd, 2023 regular council meeting. Councillor Jilek brought forward the following notice of motion. Councillor Jilek?
I would like to make a motion that council forms a Tumbler Ridge Housing Needs Committee to continue the work of our recent community meeting.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. The only question I really have, I mean, as far as needs go, yes, please. But what would that look like if a council was forming this committee? Is this a council-led push, or are we supporting? Are we creating another group and that we need members? And I just want to get a sense of what we're actually committing to with supporting this motion.
Okay, before I go to Councillor Jilek, I'm going to make a couple comments, and I know Councillor Jilek and I have already had a conversation, and just try to again indulge in in regards to the motion that came forward out of the notice of motion. My thoughts are here is we need to let the BC government and BC Housing do their job first, and actually come in dialogue with the community like they've said. I know we've reached out. I know I've been out of the office and our EA has been on holidays and has returned to find out if we've had any dialogue back. And I know I've reached out and talked to some individuals, but I think we need to let the provincial government do their part of the job first, as well as BC Housing, as the promise was to come back in dialogue with our residents to find out what the need is, whether it's single-family homes, more apartment-style homes and stuff. And when the committee, like whether it's the society that starts to help underlay all this and a committee needs to be formed then to me, that's when council would jump on board. But to me, to start a committee means we're going to start doing all the work for BC Housing and the province of BC. And I mean, don't get me wrong, take the will of council and understand where Councillor Chalke brought this forward and why she did. But the thing is, I think we need to let them do their job as they've said they would, and then follow up with it, whether it's a committee that's going to be needed or a society like they have in Dawson Creek. That'd be my insight on that. Councillor Chalke?
And while I'm okay, and I will agree that Mayor Chalke and I discussed this, I just feel like, so we have a committee for health, we have a committee for childcare, but now we don't, and we're saying that housing is as important, and so I'm okay as long as this doesn't fall off the radar. I apologize, I don't remember if it's on the fuel list, and I'm okay if it goes there, but I think the importance for me is that it doesn't fall off the radar. So our meeting was in May, April, June, okay. So it's only been a couple months. I was thinking it was a little earlier than that. So I'm okay hanging tough on it, but I would like to see if we can move it to the fuel list, just to make sure that it doesn't fall off the radar, more as a placeholder than something for staff to do. I don't know if that's what that fuel report is for.
Yeah, so I guess we can add it to fuel. I mean, what the problem with fuel is we're asking staff to undertake some kind of task to do it. I think you could have trust in myself. I have trust in you as a councillor that we don't lose this, right? So I have, any dialogue I have shared it with council. I don't plan on stopping to share that with council. If we find that we get to a spot where we're not getting what we need from whether it be BC Housing or from the Minister of Housing, there's other avenues we can start working at. And I think we just need to let that go through it. We can all see that they haven't, no demolishment permits been applied for, no demolish permits been given. So I think there's some backlog in regards to BC Housing on what happened internally. I think that's a bit of a holdup right now as well because there's some funds being withheld from the province until there was some cleanup done or whatever. I follow that fairly heavy right now. Knowing what we need some other housing options for low-income families. So I think we just got to have faith in that because to me, when we put it on fuel, we're giving a task to staff to say, we need to spend time at this and this is what we want to do. But I mean, and don't get me wrong, if council wants to start up a committee, I mean, we can put it forward and I can look at it and maybe I'll put a couple of members to it eventually, or we wait for the government to do their job. And I understand when you say health needs task force, that is just as important as housing. A little bit different, I think, in the realm of it, Councillor Chalke, and that's why I say that. But I think we just got to have trust in each other and accountability, hold each other accountable. Where are you at this? Have you heard anything back? Feel free to email me anytime. But again, we rely on BC Housing to reply and then the Minister of Housing. And, we try to follow the right steps. The executive assistant, we're not just trumping right to the minister. We're trying to follow the steps that the folks came into the community. Let's go back to them. If we're not going to hear from them, then, yeah, we go right back to the ministry secretary. So those would be my comments. Councillor Noberry?
Thank you, Mayor Chalke. I think some good comments. I mean, for myself to form a housing committee, I'd like to sort of know a little more about what issues we're addressing. Mostly because if we say the word housing, it's a very broad subject. We can get to assisted housing, we can get to medical housing, we can just talk about general resident housing. And I think unless we have a focused approach to our committee, we could just be talking about everything and not getting enough done. So I do like your approach of let's hold the government accountable, excuse me, and see what they're going to do so that we can fill in the gap with our own committee and we can put our energy and focus there. So I think maybe this could be a discussion for a PPC so we can narrow it down. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. Any more discussion? Councillor Chalke?
I absolutely agree, and I'm willing to defeat my own motion. My concern is that it just falls off the radar, and I know I've said that, but I also know that you have a very busy schedule, so for it to be at the forefront of your brain, the forefront of my brain, I just wonder if there was another process. I will have to work on that my own self, but I'm happy to let it go and do a wait and see.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. It's not let it go and let it fall off, Councillor Chalke. you know, maybe there's something we could take away from this, and let me work on something. That maybe there can be a mayor's plan book or something like that where we can add it and it comes forward to council via an email or only in our agenda where it's not for residents. It's not that it's hidden. They can pull it up if they want to see it, just so you can see that and you can see there's some dialogue. So again, I mean, we ask for everybody to trust that I'm doing it, and I promise you I am. I've never not let it off it. But yeah, I appreciate that. But maybe there's something else that we can come back with and circle around with this. And instead of calling it fuel, we call it something else, whether, you know, mayor report back to council or something, which I do in my councilor's business. So I can make sure it's always in there as well. So, okay, I'm going to read out the recommendation, and I'm going to call the question. The council forms the Tumble Ridge Housing Needs Committee to continue the work of our recent community meeting. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. EO8 council budget process. At the May 23rd, 2023 regular council meeting, Councillor Jalik brought forward the following notice of motion. Councillor Jalik, just before you read that, I just wonder if maybe we've covered that, and just in regards to the previous agenda item from the CFO. Okay, you feel that way? Okay. I guess from staff, I think we have to put a motion on the floor still to remove this from our agenda. If, yeah, just because it's in our agenda, I think we'd have to put a motion there. If you don't mind, just to remove it.
Yep. The council looks at, I make a motion that council looks at policy EO8 council budgeting process to change the date of no later than the fourth Monday of January to a date in October. If that's what you wanted me to do, yes?
Wanted to remove, that's okay.
Oh, I can totally remove it.
We can just shoot it down.
Okay.
Seconder? I'll second it. Any discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. Keep up, Ken. Transfer station work hours. At the May 23rd, 2023 regular council meeting, Councillor Jalik brought forward the following notice of motion. Councillor Jalik. Oh, sorry. My bad.
That council looks at the possibility of having the transfer station available to the public 7 days a week.
Seconder? Councillor Hoffman? Discussion? I'd like to go first, if I may. Just wondering if we could just maybe amend your motion or see how you feel about it. Instead of 7 days a week, doing 6, but instead of being closed Sundays, closing Mondays and Tuesdays. You know, whether that's I'd like to have a discussion with staff because, like, I'd rather send it to a P&P, but maybe be no expense increase. Maybe a little bit because it's a Sunday, so they probably get something different through the union, which, I mean, I'm not into that part. You know, I don't really want to dialogue that. But it also keeps it open on the weekends, which, especially in the summertime, maybe it's different in the wintertime. But I know previously we looked at this, and I always thought it's great on the weekends because I know for a lot of our residents, a lot of people are doing their yard work and their garden work and all this on the weekends. So maybe not amend it. Maybe we should just send this to a P&P would be maybe a thought. If I can go to Councillor Nobre and then I'll go to Councillor Jalik.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I think I'd be looking for a report on just changing hours at the transfer station. I know we looked at this, or I inquired about it my first term of council, and I think a report would be appropriate to see different service levels because, you know, one of the issues that was raised when I brought it up was like, well, does anybody really want to work every single weekend? Because, you know, that's how it's scheduled down there. So, you know, I'd like to see a report and see if we can come up with some models for what that would look like. Because I'd hate to have somebody lose their weekends for the rest of the time with the district.
Okay. Mr. Woodward?
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor and Council. I would suppose, or I would propose that we would have the Director of Operations preparing a report for that. So if you want to amend your motion that go to our next meeting, or amend it so that it reads that the Director of Operations provide you a report, because it's going to be involved with, you know, how the regional district does their business, how we do our business, how we have all our schedules in place, and so we need to address all of that, and the Director of Operations would be happy to do that.
Thank you for that. And, you know, my bad, actually, you know, I was just discussing. Thinking it was coming as a report and we could be looking at this, so my bad. Maybe you want to amend your motion. Councillor Jalik?
I would like to amend my motion to read that council asks staff to give us a report on the budgetary implications of having the transfer station available to the public 7 days a week.
Okay, I'll second the amendment. Any discussion on the amended motion? Sorry?
Just not-
I'm sorry, it's not our job to. Okay,
Ask for a vote on the amendment.
no. Okay, any more discussion on the amendment? Okay, and I call the question on the amended motion. All in favor? Opposed? Yeah. Okay, and then we're going to go and I'm going to call the question on the amended motion as it stands. So we only did the amendment, now we've changed it, so we're going to, so is there any discussion on the amended motion? Councillor Jilek.
And I,
It was, there you go.
I would just like to say I hear what Mayor Chalke is saying with maybe just not having it on the weekends, that we still have 2 days off, and I'm open to that. Like I'm even hoping that staff has a couple of suggestions for us to move forward. My concern with it not being open on Sundays in particular is that we're just, I think, we find more garbage in the ditch because of it. And maybe I'm wrong, but I do know that a lot of people, the weekend's still the weekend, even though we don't really follow a weekend work week anymore. So I'm just hoping that we get a couple of options. I'm not, like maybe the budgetary implications are too high, but that's why I bring it forward. And then I have a good response back to folks who want more time there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 10.5, air conditioners for schools. At the July 4th, 2023 regular council meeting, Mayor Chalke brought forward the following notice of motion. That we ask staff to draft a letter to School District 59 in regards to how we can assist in getting air conditioners to our elementary and secondary school. Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion. Councillor Noxana, then Councillor Jilek.
I'm in favor of the motion as it stands. Supporting and advocating for our residents includes the school-aged residents, not just the people who can vote for us. We advocate to every other level of government for these citizens, so this makes sense to me. We're writing a letter with a request, how it can be done. And I've been in these buildings. It gets hot in hot periods. It might only be a few days a year so far, but every year it gets longer. So fully support.
Thank you. Councillor Jilek?
I'll be voting against the motion simply because I think we're messing in somebody else's kitchen.
Thank you. And I understand where you're coming from. So I'm asking, I'll be honest, the motion there is ask how we assist our school district. I was at grad night to hand out some bursaries for the district of Tumber Ridge. And honestly, it must have been 43 degrees inside the gym. It's not just for our youth and the children that attend these schools, it's for the teachers. They're residents, and I believe the government should be assisting our school districts to make sure we have proper air circulation within our schools. That's why I put it forward. I don't think it's stepping on toes. I think I pay school taxes, and I think schools need to be accountable, or the school districts need to be accountable and make sure we have proper availability of assets in regards to when we have heat domes. I mean, I don't remember. I've been only in Tumber Ridge for 17 years, maybe 18. I do not ever remember seeing the heat that we've seen in May and June, ever in Tumber Ridge. I haven't been as long as some of the individuals sitting in this room tonight, but I've never seen it that hot for so long. So that's why I put it out there. Councillor Jilek?
I'm just, to expand on getting in somebody else's kitchen, I guess I would look at it as though if the school district came to us and said, we think that, how could we assist you in clearing the streets in front of the community center? How could we assist you in opening the public library longer? To me, I think that most of us would raise our eyebrows at that. So, like I said, I won't be in support of the motion.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry? Yeah, I was just about to say, but I don't plan on bringing that forward. Thank you, Councilor O'Brien, I apologize. Yeah, I think it's two different governing bodies. That's how I look at it. And I understand how you feel, but to me, it's two different governing bodies. As a municipality, I believe my job as a mayor or even as a councillor is to make sure that all of our residents are taken care of, whether it's our youth or our children. And I think we do a good job as a district when we make sure we have cooling areas in the summer, which is something that's, to me, being mandated by our province. So to me, schools are under our province, not the municipality. So to me, that's what I'm asking. What can we do to assist them? Not do it for them. How can we help you? Maybe it's something that they never thought that a municipality would come forward to say, hey, let's go to the government of BC with you. How do we figure this out? I think it's only right for our youth and our children. So, Councillor Knoxena and then Councillor Hoffman.
To respond to Councillor Chalke, if the school district wanted to ask us about clearing roads in front of the schools, I'd happily read that letter and hopefully be able to respond with how we could work together to make our roads safer for our students. Because this is the end of the day, we just want our students to be safe and be able to learn, and we want our residents who work there to be able to work safely. So fully in support. I don't see anything wrong with writing a letter to the school district, the regional district, the provincial government, anything. It would be the same in my eyes.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor. My question is actually for Councillor Julich as well. I'm wondering if you have an alternative way to approach this, because I don't think it's a good option to not approach it. It is getting ridiculous some of these days. I mean, it is just, and I expect it's going to get hotter, and that, as was stated, there's going to be more. So I am not prepared to just wait another year, another 2 years, another 3 years before at least saying something. And that's why I was wondering if there was a different avenue that you think we should take, or you just, if you don't have anything, that's fine. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and I apologize if that's how you're taking it, but I'd be more than happy to listen to an alternative, but nothing is not on my list of alternatives right now.
Councillor Julich?
I wouldn't say that I had any other idea than I've already presented.
Thank you. Okay, going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councillor's business? Does anybody have any councillor's business? Councillor Knoxena?
Mayor Kirkauka and I attended Westmo Days. We were able to bring up the Geopark trailer. They had requested it to be there for the weekend. What else did we do? Oh gosh, it was really well ran. Lots of activities, very busy, slightly cooler than Pemmican Days was, which was very nice. And like Mayor Kirkauka said, we were welcomed graciously, I guess, Friday, and super excited to see us there. So it was really good to see and to have some good conversations with Chief Wilson.
Yeah, thank you for that. Anything else for councillor's business? Just a couple things. I want to thank Councillor Knoxena, Councillor Julich, Councillor Norbury for submitting the reports. Again, I'm going to make a comment that please, if you guys are attending the meetings, we need to have these reports, and it really keeps us updated to what's going on in regards to our community, but also your I'm losing track tonight, sorry. Committees and stuff. Thanks, Councillor Norbury. And Councillor Clickash too. I know you're not on here, but I know you've sent one in and stuff and received it. But please, if you're unsure how to fill it out, reach out to me. I'll assist on it. It's very, very important when we're funding certain groups in the community, and we need to make sure that all of us as council are updated in regards to the meetings and how they're flowing. I know at the previous meeting I mentioned in regards to the caribou, it was submitted. That was something that Westmo and SODO are part of. To me, it's more for our residents and the rest of council that didn't get to see the reports. It just talks about the numbers increases, and that's at the Penning project. And again, if they do open it up next year again for tours, I'll reach out to council. Councillor Knoxena was able to attend this time, but obviously maybe we can have other people attend next year. They did have a calf that the mother ended up passing away, I believe 2 days before the tour. Day before? Yeah. This calf's doing amazing, Chief Wilson said. The last calf has been born. I believe there's about 2 weeks left before they will release the caribou. So that's pretty important and great information and stuff like that in that one. Westmo Days, again, Councillor Knoxdown, thank you very much for hauling the trailer down, hauling it back. Thanks for letting me back it in. I think you could have handled that, I think, hands down, but a little tight. But again, people have an opportunity next year to go to Pemmican Days or Westmo. I really suggest we talk about it. There's events there that we can sign up to and actually partake in. And I'll be honest, Chief Wilson, even the rest of his council were great. They did their 10-year celebration in regards to the company that they're part of. It's 13 years now because they couldn't do the celebration due to COVID. So they had a huge monstrous cake there and some pictures that were donated. But that's in regards to the company that they have partnered with. So it was great to see everybody. I didn't attend either of the dinners. Chief Wilson was surprised I wasn't staying for dinner, but I had other arrangements. So, but they have amazing dinners there as well. I met with the manager with Modi and staff at Town Hall with our CAO and our deputy corporate, just to discuss in regards to what we talked about with the ministers down in Victoria. So we talked about obviously the concern at Teepee Creek in regards to the big frost heave that we had there. We took good enough pictures. I believe it was Chief Curry took those pictures for us, that they were able to dialogue into there and actually come out and look at it. And what it is the water is the culvert lifted, but the water got underneath it, and that's what pushed it up. So at some point this month, there will be a one-day shutdown of Highway 52 North because they're going to remove that whole culvert and replace it. So there will be a shutdown of that road, but will be properly advertised. We talked about the brush clearing. I won't say they've guaranteed it, but it sounds like they're going to try to go from Tumbler Ridge side to the rest stop at 45, 52, whatever it is, 48 kilometers out, whatever that number is, or close to it. So that's good. Instead of coming in from the other side and only going up so far, they're going to start Tumbler and go the other way. We talked about in regards to, I understand staff is working on it too, but the Murray River boat launch in regards to possibly some metal and stuff in there that could be from a previous bridge working or whatever. So we're going to submit pictures to them and they're going to look at that. I did put out a weird request to Modi, and that was to, I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't speak on behalf of council, and our CEO was there, so I didn't step out of line in regards to it. But just something that maybe we could partner with them, Trails and Rec Sites BC, ourselves, in regards to a proper bathroom facility at the boat launch, something like they have at the rest stops. So they were going to do some reaching out in regards to some of their officials to see if that's something that we could all partake in. And our side of it may be, I mean, obviously this is the early stages of discussion, but I don't want to keep anything from council. Our partake could be is that we go down and clean it. It's done through the other government agencies. So looking forward to some of that. There was some discussion talked about maybe changing the speed limit, which has been done previously, further west of the boat launch on Highway 29. So instead of waiting till you get to just before flatbed, actually moving it down around the corner by the CN yard, the rail yard there, just to slow people down before the boat launch. They're going to look into that as well. Something they forgot about when they opened up the boat launch entrance and exit. So they're going to look into that again as well. So other than that, I just did Westmo Days and the meeting there. Other than that, fairly quiet, which is a good thing, I think, when it comes to August. So. Anything else from any other councillors? Okay. Question and answer period. Is there any emailed questions, Mr. Woodward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, we have none at this time.
Thank you. Resolution to close. Take the recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That the August 8th, 2023 regular council meeting be closed to the public according to Section 91C, E, G, and J to permit discussions about C, labor relations and other employee relations, G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, and J, information that is prohibited or information that if were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Seconder? Counselor Hoffman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 5-minute recess.